Hey guys, Miss Limer here. Today we're going to talk about a few strategies to add. So there are 4 strategies that we can use to add, 5 if you include the standard algorithm. But in this video, we're just going to talk about 2 of them, okay? We've already talked about strip diagrams in my strip diagram video. So you can add using strip diagrams. When you're adding or when you see an addition problem, these are your parts. Both add-ins are your parts, so they go in your parts, and you add them together to make a whole. Because the whole spans the whole width of both parts, you know that it has to be bigger than both parts, so that means you add them together, okay? I'm going to talk about number lines in my addition and subtraction with number lines video, so make sure if you want to know more about number lines, you go look at that video. Today, in this video, we're going to talk about adding with expanded form and adding using base 10 form. So when we're adding with expanded form, you write down your standard algorithm and you draw an arrow after both numbers. The first thing you do is expand the first number. So 148 turns into that, 148. So you have 100 plus 40 plus 8. And then 64 turns into 64. 64. Now notice, 64 did not have a hundreds place, so I have nothing in my hundreds place right here. You have to be very careful that you line up all of your places together. So 64 starts with the tens place, so I lined it up with the 40 of the tens place in 148, okay? After you expand both numbers, you add them together. So 100 plus 0 is 100, 40 plus 60 is 100, 8 plus 4 is 12. Now you can't forget to put those pluses between, because what we're doing is we're taking 2 different expanded forms and we're putting them together to give us one bigger expanded form. Now the thing about expanded form is that that is a number, you can't leave it like that. So you have to combine it together. So what I do next is I take that first 100 and then I drag down both of the other numbers. And this is the only time that I ever allow my students to add 3 numbers at a time. So it makes it kind of special. So here we have 100 plus 100 plus 12 equals 212. After you solve the expanded form, you have to check it using the standard algorithm. Okay, so if you check it using the standard algorithm, you'll find that 148 plus 64 is in fact 212. So looking at another example of that, I went ahead and made this one, 234 plus 621. So the first thing we do is we draw our arrows and we expand both numbers. So 234 turns into 234. 200 plus 30 plus 4. 621 turns into 621. 600 plus 20 plus 1. Notice my places are lined up nice and neat. All of my numbers align with the numbers below it, okay? After I expand both numbers, I add them together to make a big expanded form. So we'll start with our ones place, 4 plus 1 is 5. 30 plus 20 is 50. 200 plus 600 is 800. And notice I still have my pluses because this is just one big giant expanded form. After you get your big giant expanded form, you add all of those together. So 800 plus 50 plus 5 is 855. But we're not done. After we do the expanded form, we have to check it using the standard algorithm. So we always start in our ones place. 4 plus 1 is 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. 2 plus 6 is 8. So I got 855 here and 855 here. When you're checking your problem, if you get a different number, that's when you have to stop and redo it. Because if you have a different number here and here, they should be identical. So if you have a different number, then you've done something wrong either on your expanded form part or on your standard algorithm. Okay, so the next part we're going to talk about, another strategy to add, is adding using base 10 form. Now when we start adding, your teacher pulls out those little blocks, the hundreds, the tens, the ones, and the thousands cube, and you play with those. You build numbers and you look at how much each is worth and how many tens does it take to make 100 and how many ones to make a 10. So you look at all of those things. When you get in the 3rd grade, you start to use those in different ways. You start to use those to add and subtract numbers. So in base 10 form, it's very similar to expanded form, but instead of expanding both numbers, you start with your standard algorithm and you build both numbers. So here I use the same exact problem, 148 plus 64. I built my first number. I have 100, 4 tens and 8 ones. And then I built 64. 6 tens, and 4 ones. Notice I didn't have any hundreds, so I left that spot blank and I moved it over so I could line up my tens with my tens. So after all of that is done, this shows an example where you can draw the blocks, right? So I drew my 100. I had 6 plus 4, I had 10 ones, and I had 10 tens, and I had 12 ones. So because you can't have more than 9 in a place, I had to take away 10 ones and make it a 10, okay, which gave me 11 tens. So then I had to take away 10 tens and make it 100, which left me with 212. But there's a different way you can do it. Instead of drawing all of the blocks for your total, you can just write your total in number form, okay? So in this example, 134 plus 261, I built both numbers. So I built 134, 261. Notice everything is lined up with its places. So instead of drawing the blocks down here, if you see what I did, I said 4 plus 1 is 5. 6 plus 3 is, or 60 plus 30 is 90. 200 plus 100 is 300. And then I just added them together. 300 plus 90 plus 5 equals 395. Okay. Then you're not done because you have to check it with your standard algorithm, just like when we're adding in the other form. 4 plus 1 is 5. 3 plus 6 is 9. 1 plus 2 is 3.